Welcome to Super Simple Security Principles, where you learn how to think about online security, not just which apps to install. I'm Nick Jackson, here to learn along with you from my good buddy and master guardian, Makani Mason. Woo! This is episode 98. Let's go. And this one's legit. You ready to hear this one? Is your home network compromised? How many of you guys can definitively answer that question, right? That's what I want to know. Because if you ask me, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
And it's tricky to answer. And
yeah,
we're not going to have a definitive answer to this. Unfortunately, there is no just like totally trivial way to say, is your home network compromised? But
gotcha.
this is a tool that can help answer that question.
Perfect.
And so today is a little bit of a departure. We've been doing email for a long time, you noticed, and we're still going to. But there were a couple things that came across my news feed, so to speak, that led me to say, well, I want to take a break from that for this one episode.
Okay.
So, because...
So this is something, if I could interrupt real quick. This is something that hit your news feed that you found pertinent enough to redirect what we were doing with the email thing to add this episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Listeners, listen up, man. This caught our master guardian's attention enough to shift his schedule.
Yeah, well, especially, so in conjunction with, there was an article that talked about, there was you remember we've talked about DDoS attacks? Distributed denial of service, where we have all these compromised devices that then can attack, all the slaves, right?
Yep, I remember.
Well, okay, good. So I wasn't sure. We want to make sure to remind our listeners as well.
A quick reminder.
Yeah. Well, so the basic idea is that there are hackers out there, and one of their objectives is just to take over computers.
Yeah.
And turn them into their slaves and just keep them silently their slaves.
Not good.
And one of the reasons they do it is so that then they can attack a website all at once. All these slaves go and visit the website and what's called
just
denial of service.
The website.
Exactly, just overload it. And, over time, we keep seeing bigger and bigger and bigger ones. And one of the latest ones that's been tracked is a whole network, an army, as I like to call them, a slave army of 1.8 million smart TVs.
Smart TVs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, distributed around the world. These aren't just U.S. This is in, I can't remember how many countries, but like 20 plus, I think, that they tracked them in. U.S. was, I think, third from the top with several 100,000 anyway. So it's a big one. And like those, and I'll link the article. I won't go into too much about it, but that was the other thing that caught my attention, was just a reminder that even if you don't know it, you may have devices that are compromised, because one of the main purposes is things like this, where they'll compromise it and then it just won't impact you until they do it. And even then, you might have a slow internet that day or whatever.
You might not even know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and they coordinated an attack with whatever device was connected to the internet. Yeah.
And one of the reasons they do this is because, so say, for example, if you have a smart TV in your house, Nick, and a hacker takes it over. Even if you discovered that, you're never going to have the expertise as a home user to track down the origin of that attack.
Oh, never. Not a chance.
Right?
Not a chance.
So, whereas if, they infiltrated a corporate one, they might get tracked back.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the advantages of this, is not only they give all this huge slave army, but it makes it so they can't track where the bad guys are attacking from, because they're attacking from,
Virtually everywhere.
Yeah, a million different places, literally, and they're just random, innocent users. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It's why I don't
And
connect my TV to the internet. True story.
right. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, yeah, and I know a lot of people do, but anyway, yeah, so one of the questions that we want to be able to answer, and this tool helps a little bit with, is to be able to answer if you have a compromised device in your house.
Cool.
So we've talked about some others in the past, and what this one does is it's very simple to use, but it's got a lot of limitations. So it's one tool that you have to use in the mix with other things, but I still feel like it's worth sharing because it's so simple to do.
Yeah.
So we've
It's like
talked
one of
about
those small ingredients in a recipe. It's a small ingredients, but it could make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, and the main use case where I would use it is if you're concerned, like if there's some evidence you have some reason to think that you might, then that would be, okay, well, let's check this. This would be one more data point.
Yeah.
So that's the main way I'm thinking of. So what it does is, we've talked about your home router IP address before, right?
Yes. Yep.
So because your router is
two-way communication.
Yeah, it's the way you communicate with the internet, right?
Yep.
And it gets an IP address. And so what this service does, it's called gray noise, and I'll put the URL in the show notes as well. But what it does is it keeps a history of IP addresses and if they are having bad behavior. So, if your IP address has a history of performing or participating in a DDoS attack, then it will try to track that and then report that to you. So it doesn't do any scanning of your network. It doesn't do anything. All it does is it checks your IP address, which every website you ever visit gets to see your IP address. So it's nothing privacy invasive at all. And it just looks up the history of your IP address that they have records of.
Cool.
So it can't tell you if it's a specific device. And because IP addresses change, it's not even perfectly conclusive. Like, it can have false positives and false negatives. It could tell you it's clean when it's not. It could tell you it's bad when it's not. Okay. So this is why it's one data point. It partly depends on how often your IP address changes at your house.
Okay. Why would an IP address change at our house? Change of internet?
Yeah, well, so whenever your router reboots, it will connect to your ISP and it could get assigned a new IP address.
Okay. So power goes out. I don't have a backup power source. It goes down. I could have a different IP address.
Yep.
Okay.
They could give you the same one. It just depends on the ISP and how much they change it. Like at my house, for example.
It's sad that I caught ISP and new internet service provider.
No, that's good. Yeah, I know. I appreciate you catching that, though, because I know that's not everybody doesn't know that one. I just rolled off without even thinking about it. So thanks for keeping me honest. Yeah, internet service provider, your internet. I should probably just get in the habit of just saying internet provider, because everybody's going to understand that. I love my acronyms, so thank you. So my internet provider, I don't always have the same IP address. I definitely don't, but it's usually kind of in a certain, what they call a subnet, like a range, kind of like you can think of it as like a neighborhood in terms of addresses. And that's pretty common too. So one thing that could happen too is, maybe if everybody in your actual physical neighborhood has Comcast, for example, and one of their networks is compromised, it could end up showing as compromised, even though it's their network, not yours.
Gotcha.
Right? But even in that case, it gives you some information, because it means that in your general area, your general subnet, your neighborhood of the internet, there is, attacks and compromise going on. Anyway, it's not trivial to use. It's trivial to look up and do a check. Not trivial to interpret.
Okay. That was my next question, actually. Is it something that I'm going to be able to look at and go, oh, yeah, I could totally use this?
Well, so the way, like I said, what I would do is, if you're worried about it, I would go check. And if it says bad, then I would definitely, obviously for this, talk to me.
Okay.
And I'll say that to our users too.
Hit McConaughey up. It says bad, hit him up.
Yeah, I'm certainly at this point, once we have too many users, I wouldn't be able to do that for everybody, but not getting right so many requests that I couldn't, that for now, yeah, I'd be willing to look into that. So, yeah, so I want to just share a couple more things about how the service works. It's called Gray Noise, and they mostly make money from enterprise offerings. And I don't really know anything about their enterprise offerings, so I can't endorse that.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty new find. But here's this is the last thing I want to teach for today, because this is a kind of a general purpose tool idea that could be used for anybody who works in a corporate job. They could say, hey, this is a good security tool that we could add to protect our office. Because even if you're not a tech expert, even if you just understand this simple concept, it's something that you could recommend at your work.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know if we've ever talked about it, this concept of a honeypot. We talked about honeypots before together at all?
Ooh.
In digital security, anyway. I don't think we have, but
I think we have. Didn't we talk about honeypots when we were talking about our decks and how to build decks?
I don't know what you're talking about with decks.
Well, we'll just say no. Teach me about a honeypot real quick.
All right, good. Okay. So one of the ways that, and it kind of looks like the main way that Gray Noise collects their data about the behavior of IP addresses, is they put out what they call honeypots. This isn't their term. This is a general digital security, cybersecurity term. And what it is you set up devices that are available either on the public internet, or if you're worried about somebody getting within your local corporate intranet network, then you can set them up internally as well.
Okay.
And a lot of that happens. There's very big professional corporate honeypots that you can buy and stuff. And what they are is they are a device that is set up to look like a vulnerable target. That looks like, hey, you want to come attack this? I've got some juicy data. I've got an open port that you can get in and attack me on. Whatever. There's tons of varieties of them, right? But it's a trap for the bad guys.
I like traps for the bad guys.
Yeah, and so what it does is, it just collects all the data it can with obviously there's nothing actually valuable in there.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but it just collects what it can about the behavior, so they can learn, profile the bad guys, and sometimes, maybe even get back into their network and hijack into them and learn about them,
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I love that concept of a honeypot and fighting back just against the bad guys.
Collective, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, and that's it. I think my takeaway today is, I want people to understand the honeypot, but also, with the smart TVs, and we've talked about it before, but I'm going to keep reminding people that there is, this, what I like to call a hidden slave army of devices. And so even if you don't recognize it, is, your home network security is very important.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Dude, my takeaway is going to be all in the show notes. Go click that link. Go check. See if it comes back with something bad. And if it does, hit up Mr. Guardian. Call McConney. Get a hold of him. Say, I got something bad that came up. That's my big takeaway, because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to do some safeguarding. And let's trust the experts. So here we go.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah.
You betcha. That was a good show, man.
Yeah. Are you ready to take action and wondering where to start? Get my Bulletproof My Identity Starter Kit for free. The 7 most vital layers of protection everyone needs. I'll send you one step at a time and help you if you get stuck. Just go to bulletproofmyid.com and enter your name and email, and I will send you the first step. Again, that's bulletproofmyid.com.